Hey everyone, it's your boy, Anthony Fantano, internet's busiest music nerd. Hope you're doing well.
He probably didn't know that it was going to go there. He didn't assume Jaden Smith was going to say.
And this is the RR. I mean, he's been doing this forever, and it's like, man.
So what I'm going to do is get the straight dope here, straight from the artist himself, on what exactly makes this song, what makes this album tick. And in the process, I'm going to try not to cringe. Let's go.
Icon living. I am just an icon living. Icon living. I am just an icon living. I am just an icon.
One of the most widely disparaged artists in the game, Jaden Smith is not unfamiliar with criticism long before his career as a rapper. As the son of superstar actor and rap icon Will Smith, his career and persona have been the subject of much debate and scrutiny. The frequent critique of his success being the result of nepotism as an industry plant had brightened the lights around an already famous family, capturing the stumbles surrounding his angst-filled teenage years. However, I'd like to examine Jaden's career as an example of subverting expectations of the genre and using privilege he's afforded due to his familial ties to break free from the limitations we hold rappers to. We'll look into these topics and answer through the examination the question, what does it mean to be born into your sophomore slump? For many rappers, the sophomore slump comes after the question, what next? You spend a majority of your life writing your debut. All the pitfalls, tribulations, lessons, all culminate into this one work, a biography of you. And now, because of how we consume entertainment, you have to follow up somewhat quickly with your next work. Some people can have success by going the conceptual route and pulling from their experiences to paint something never heard before, and others fit as much life as possible into the next few months of fame before inking it onto record to capture the same feeling as their debut. The difficulty comes when the level of success of the debut makes the genuine, sincere struggles and hardships overcome feel unearned in the sequel work. We describe the emptiness as a lack of authenticity, tone deafness, and sometimes harshly, a retreading of old ground. That freedom that comes with the debut can also be the shackle we hold many artists to, and so they operate like addicts, chasing the same high to ill effect. So what about someone we would describe as born on third base, and most rap fans would describe as a silver spoon? Jaden began his music career in 2012 with the drop of the first Cool tape, and followed shortly thereafter with his debut studio album, Sire, which was met with mixed acclaim, many critics citing his reach extending beyond his grasp, as the work was unfocused and the lyrics lacking in depth. However, moments of brilliance shone, such as the single Icon that put his mark on the general game and earned him recognition as a popular and serious artist. He released the work through his newly created and aptly named Misfit record label, and thus began the journey into honing his musical ability and breaking away from the image of being just the son of Will Smith. Sorry, Trey. Jaden's personal label of Misfit is one that sticks out in his debut work. It's not too difficult to see him emulating his peers, the look of someone trying to fit into a group they appear to be a guest in. Born into unique circumstances, there aren't many that can share the perspective of the son of wealthy Hollywood actors breaking into the music industry, and for rappers that shortlist is even fewer. The limelight and scrutiny, where your teenage blunders can make airwaves globally and have you ridiculed for those thoughts, is a harsh and unfamiliar one to most. Who hasn't occasionally thought that they were the smartest person in the room in their 5th period English class, while no one but you was interested in talking about the political and economic state of the world?
50% of human DNA is shared with a banana. Unbelievable.
The rap game is one mired by stories of despair and depravity. We hear of stories highlighting gruesome depictions of black communities with a jarring matter-of-factness. Many consider this to be the real that's lacking from other genres. Not in country, rock, or pop will you find these gritty realities painted by rap artists, but it's also a cursed reality, marred by fatal shootings, premature deaths, and violence against innocence.
I was about 8 years old, and at the time, we were living in Silver Spring. Yeah. Yes. Common misconception about me in D.C. A lot of people think I'm from the hood. That's not true. But I never bothered to correct anybody because I wanted the streets to embrace me. As a matter of fact, I kept it up as a ruse. Like sometimes I'll hang out with rappers like Nas and them, and these motherfuckers will start talking about the projects. Yo, it was wild in the PJs, yo. And I'll be like, word, nigga, word. But I don't know. I have no idea.
What's the right thing for me to call women? Bitches or hoes?
I actually am proud to say that I don't really drop the B word like. I'll say it.
Jake, I've heard you say it.
I'll say it in raps.
Jake, a lot. Say a lot.
Raps, a fair share.
Yeah,
but like, I'm not really just walking around the streets like, bitch.
You're saying host. So you're saying I should say host?
There are no Beach Boys in the rap game, and no, Brockhampton doesn't count.
Beach Boy. Oh, hell no. If you didn't just touch my goddamn radio.
The Beach Boys are great American music.
The Beach Boys gonna get you a great ass whooping. Ever touch a black man's radio, boy? You can do that in training, but
An evolution in the game that hasn't been witnessed is one that is born without trauma, or at least the same traumas that mire these communities and are perpetuated by their members.
He asked a question: if you could have life without the injustice, the inequality, whether it's economics, education, the justice system, as opposed to having hip-hop culture.
And all those things being factors in creating hip-hop.
Yeah, right? All those struggles being a factor, components of the creation of hip-hop culture. What would you choose? You know what I'm saying?
No, I'm going to say, I dig hip-hop the way it is, you know what I'm saying, with the struggle and strife, because I feel that that's the only way we can really appreciate the culture and the things that people have been through. If you always rhyming about the good life, you know what I'm saying, that's bullshit, you know what I'm saying, because life ain't always good. So to get the grimy and get the real, I love that shit. So, music ain't music without the struggle.
Okay, so here, play hypothetical with me, right? What you in
right.
Texas? What part of Texas you in?
San Antonio.
Okay, San Antonio, Texas. I'm sure there's do you have a fair justice system out there?
I mean, hell no, it ain't a fair justice system. No.
All right. Do people in disenfranchised areas have less resources when it comes to education?
Of course they do. I mean, but that's anywhere you go, though.
Okay, but what if that wasn't anywhere you went? What if you had the option to have your society be a fair one for everybody across the board? Doesn't matter what color, skin, or any of that. What would you choose? To have that society, or to go through what we've gone through for centuries but still have hip hop?
I'm gonna have to go with the struggle, because again, like I said, I think what people miss, those that do have the silver spoon in their mouth and been given everything, what they miss out on is knowing what it is to work for some shit. You know what I'm saying? Knowing what it is. Not that you always have to have the worst of shit, the roaches and the rats and shit. Nah, not like that. But just saying, being able to appreciate whatever it is that you have. We want everybody to have a fair system, but is that shit realistic? It's not fucking realistic. I mean, there's no utopia that's going to be like, everybody's fed, everybody's pockets are full. That shit is not real. But with hip-hop being and us being in a position that we're in, that shit is real. It's real sleeping with motherfucking dogs at your feet. You know what I'm saying? It's real with gunshots flying over your head. It's real motherfuckers kicking in your door and shit. That's real life. But what that shows you is, you get through that bullshit, you can get through anything. So, even though... I'm sorry.
No.
For how I was acting, I think they got the wrong idea. Maybe you can interview me sometime. You know the real me.
Listen, I want to give you some advice. Play your part. People don't want Justin to be the asshole. They want you to be the asshole. You're a rapper. That's your job.
The barrier of entry to real is defied by those born outside those circumstances, giving us a look at what subject matter might be explored from a perspective we haven't seen before.
And the whole album is kind of about me being obsessed with the sunset, and that's kind of the whole theme of it, of Sire, where it's the sunset. I'm so obsessed with it. So I went somewhere that I could see that pink sky and
I mean, if you had a sunset once a month, everybody'd go out to watch it. If you had a sunset once a year, think if you had a sunset once in your lifetime, you don't think the whole planet would be out to see that amazing event? But every day.
Smith's mark on the rap game has been his eagerness to understanding his emotional maturity, exploring his own growth as an individual born to fame, and finding happiness despite some of the mental hurdles from a social media addicted world. In his most recent Cool Tape 3, he breaks from the mold of the identity-seeking sire persona into a lush, harmonic work that recalls the Californian summer. With a muted rainbow of colors, he moves away from the grip of his prior persona of angst into a nostalgic fever dream, exploring his growth from failed relationships with a musical bent that wasn't existent in his prior works. Borrowing inspiration from pop legends, the Beach Boys, Beatles, and more, the soundscapes presented are laden with sunny lyrics and contented vibes. It's no surprise that it's also his most critically acclaimed work, cohesive both in sound and lyric. He's finally found a footing to explore his troubles in a way that isn't forcing the issue. The growth has made it clear to see what the young artist is carving as an interesting niche in the game, less grandstanding and more directed than he's ever been before. It also gives us a break from the trauma-filled or trauma-perpetuating work that exists currently in the rap genre. Less trap-heavy, Smith is an example of being born of quote-unquote black excellence, free to explore himself fully outside the history that weighs on many of our artists. Jaden cuts an interesting study of an artist that was famous way before ever having the chance to find their voice. There's a lot that can be said regarding the context of his career as a member of the Nepotism Club, despite the fact that we don't discuss or dismiss many of its members because of their backgrounds or their particular field. Musicians and artists such as Lenny Kravitz, Ed Sheeran, the Mayer Sisters, Taylor Swift, Jamie Lee Curtis, or Julia Louis-Dreyfus don't have the level of criticism that would cause us to roll our eyes as they wipe tears from their own while reminiscing at the hard work it took to get where they're at.
To all of the people who have supported the genre movies that I have made for all these years, the thousands and hundreds of thousands of people, we just won an Oscar together! And my mother and my father were both nominated for Oscars in different categories. I just won an Oscar.
The rap game has the added expectation of what a rapper should be, the archetype of the street-hardened poet, capturing the trauma of their reality for the benefit of our entertainment. As the product of an already wholesome rapper in Will Smith, he aims to prove the apple has fallen far from the tree, defining himself beyond the label. The things that we may find cool or uncool are actually the subtle limitations we place on our artists.
Okay. No, I did not say that. Misquoted for sure. No, you did not hear me say I said we used to make fun of the name. But yeah, he is obvious.
Those who seek to break the mold of your understanding of them will sooner have their wings clipped for failing to be understood. But ultimately, they seek to find purpose in the understanding they reach with their audience.
You know,
When it's just you.
When it's just me, it's like, man, I really want to give people a show. I want to give my all on stage, you know?
Whether I agree with them or not, I know where they're coming from. They want to be heard. They got something to say. There's something they notice. They just want to be understood. Love this genre. It saved my life.
That feeling of needing to be understood is not something we are strangers to. However, we don't afford it to those who we consider lacking in the substance of shared struggle. In this eat the rich, get the guillotine, Buffett on Warren ethos created by the inequities of modern capitalism, we often lose sight of the humanity of those born into circumstances of wealth, privilege, and status.
That dirty dishes line, man. Rich kids hate nothing more than chores. So that dirty dishes line is fire!
However, it isn't to any fault of their own that the disparities we are born to exist. So we easily find ourselves scoffing at the potential and possibility afforded by the perspectives of people such as a Jaden Smith, especially in the rap game. This is someone who attempts to push the boundaries of their own understanding, and yet their efforts are met with jaded apathy because of the dehumanizing otherness we impose on those that fail to meet the expectations of our own preconceived labeling. And for those on the other end, they're meant to deal with the mental taxation of failing to connect with others who form that distrust based on social status. The ultimate truth is that no one's better than you because of your circumstances, and that we shouldn't judge anyone by what their standing is, but the good that they do engage in, that should speak volumes.
Water that are in the ocean, all these things, and I was like, okay, I want to find a way to make
products that don't have to be made out of plastic, like that's our only choice. And then we started to make Just Water, and it started when I was 11, then it slowly kept going and going and going and going and going until multiple years later it actually got into Whole Foods and all this stuff, and me and Drew just worked on it. It came into the market at 50% renewability, then it went to 70, then 71, then to 80.
And before you judge your friend when he asks for the aux and says, put that Jaden on, that same dismissiveness could be an opportunity in relating to someone who has no one to relate with. Thanks for watching. As always, like and subscribe if you enjoy the content. Follow me on socials pinned in the comments below, and support me on Patreon as well to improve this channel. All the links are in the description. Thank you for watching.